The mirror of truth. Have you ever found yourself staring into a mirror, not just glancing at your reflection, but really looking? The kind of look where you see beyond the surface, beyond your physical features, to the person staring back at you? It's an uncomfortable moment for many. The longer you look, the harder it gets. Questions begin to bubble up, questions we often silence with distractions. Who am I really? Am I being honest with others, with myself? Or am I just playing a role, reciting lines I think the world wants to hear? Most of us don't like to linger in that space. The mirror can feel like an interrogation, reflecting not just who we are, but who we pretend to be. And in a world that often rewards appearances over authenticity, it's easy to understand why so many of us craft carefully curated versions of ourselves. We filter not just our photos, but our thoughts, our actions, our truths. But at what cost? The weight of a mask. Every lie, every half-truth, every omission of honesty adds a layer to the mask we wear. At first, it feels harmless, necessary even. A small embellishment in a story to make it more interesting. A nod of agreement to avoid confrontation. A smile when you feel like crying. Little moments of dishonesty that seem like oil for the gears of life. But masks are heavy. The more we wear them, the more they weigh us down. Over time, we forget where the mask ends and where we begin. The real you, your thoughts, your feelings, your dreams, becomes buried beneath layers of performance. And when someone finally sees through the mask, it's terrifying. Vulnerability floods in, and we wonder, will they still love me if I see me as I am? That fear drives us to keep the mask on, tightening the straps until even we struggle to breathe. Why we fear honesty. Why is it so hard to be honest? Why do we fear truthfulness, even though we crave it from others? The answer lies in vulnerability. Honesty strips us bare. It removes the illusions we hide behind and exposes us to judgment, rejection, and pain. It's no wonder we resist it. Think about the last time someone asked, "How are you?" Did you answer truthfully? Or did you give the safe default response, "I'm fine"? Being honest in that moment might have meant admitting you're overwhelmed, lonely, or uncertain. It might have meant sharing something raw and real, something you're not sure others are ready to hear. And so we retreat behind politeness, behind safety. We say we're fine because it feels less risky. But with every missed opportunity to share our truth, a tiny wedge forms in our relationships. Over time, those wedges become walls, and we find ourselves surrounded by people who know our mask, but not us. The longing for connection. Here's the irony. We all long for connection. We want to feel seen, heard, and understood, but connection requires honesty, and honesty requires courage. It's a paradox that keeps many of us trapped. Picture this, two friends sitting across from each other, both struggling with the same feelings of inadequacy. Neither speaks their truth. They both smile and nod, pretending everything's fine, while silently wishing the other would open up. It's a quiet tragedy, a missed opportunity to connect, to support, to be real. We fear that honesty will push others away, but the opposite is often true. Honesty has a magnetic quality. It draws people in. It says, "Here I am, flaws and all." And when someone sees your truth and chooses to stay, that's where real connection begins. The mirror of our relationships. Our relationships act as mirrors, reflecting the honesty we bring to them. When we are truthful, we invite others to be truthful as well. When we hide behind facades, we create relationships built on illusions. But here's the challenge. Honesty isn't always easy. It's not just about avoiding lies. It's about living authentically. It's about speaking up when it's easier to stay silent, about being vulnerable when it feels safer to hide. And yes, it's about admitting our mistakes, even when it stings. Take a moment to think about the relationships in your life. How many are built on mutual honesty? How many are held together by shared performances? It's a sobering question, but an important one, because the quality of our relationships reflects the quality of our honesty. The first step, facing yourself. Before we can be honest with others, we must be honest with ourselves. That's where the mirror comes in. Standing in front of it, looking at yourself, not just your face, but your essence, is the first step. What do you see when you look at yourself honestly? Do you see someone who is living authentically, or someone who has gotten lost in the roles they play? Do you see courage, or do you see fear? It's not about judgment, it's about awareness. Because awareness is the first step to change. When we're truthful with ourselves, we begin to understand our motivations, our fears, and our desires. We see the stories we tell ourselves, stories about who we are, what we're capable of, and what we deserve. And with that understanding comes the power to rewrite those stories. So I invite you to ask yourself, what truth have I been avoiding? Maybe it's a truth about your work, your relationships, or your dreams. Maybe it's a truth about how you've been treating yourself. Whatever it is, give yourself permission to face it. Honesty isn't about perfection. It's not about always saying the right thing or being flawless in your integrity. It's about striving to live in alignment with your values. It's about being real, even when it's messy. The mirror is waiting, and when you're ready to look, you might just discover a deeper truth, a truth that has the power to set you free. This is the first step on the journey to living a more honest, authentic life, a life where you can breathe freely, love deeply, and connect meaningfully. The fragility of trust. Trust is the silent architect of every meaningful relationship. It's not flashy or attention-seeking, but its presence is felt in every interaction, every word exchanged, and every moment shared. When trust is strong, it forms an invisible thread that connects us to others, making us feel safe, understood, and valued. But trust is fragile, more fragile than we often realize. Imagine trust as a delicate glass sculpture. It takes time, care, and patience to create. But one careless moment, one lie, one betrayal can shatter it in an instant. And even if you painstakingly glue the pieces back together, the cracks remain, a permanent reminder of what was broken. The roots of trust. Trust begins with honesty. Without honesty, trust simply cannot exist. When we choose to be truthful with someone, we send a powerful message. I value you enough to show you my real self. It's an act of vulnerability, but also an act of strength. And when that honesty is reciprocated, it creates a foundation that can weather life's inevitable storms. But honesty isn't a one-time decision. It's a practice. Every choice we make, every word we speak, either strengthens or weakens the trust we've built. And in a world that often glorifies convenience over consistency, this practice can feel like an uphill battle. How trust is broken. Trust isn't always shattered by grand betrayals. Sometimes it's the small, seemingly insignificant breaches that cause the most damage. A promise left unfulfilled, a truth withheld, a compliment that feels insincere. These moments may seem trivial on their own, but they add up. Each one chips away at the foundation of trust, creating fissures that can grow into unbridgeable divides. Think about a time when someone you trusted let you down. Maybe they didn't show up when you needed them, or maybe they told a harmless lie that wasn't so harmless after all. How did it make you feel? Likely it wasn't just disappointment, It was a sense of betrayal, a questioning of whether they truly valued you or your relationship. That's the weight of broken trust. It doesn't just hurt, it casts doubt on everything that came before it. The role of fear. Why do we sometimes risk breaking trust? Often, it comes down to fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of rejection, fear of being judged. These fears drive us to avoid uncomfortable truths or to tell people what we think they want to hear instead of what they need to hear. For example, imagine you made a mistake at work, something small but significant. Admitting it might seem daunting. What if your boss thinks less of you? What if it affects your reputation? So instead you choose to hide it, hoping it will go unnoticed. But when the truth inevitably comes out, the impact is far greater. Not only is the mistake exposed, but so is your dishonesty. And just like that, trust is eroded. Fear is natural, but it's rarely a good guide. It prioritizes short-term comfort over long-term connection, leaving us with fractured relationships and a heavier heart. The cost of broken trust. When trust is broken, the fallout goes far beyond the immediate relationship. It ripples outward, affecting how we view ourselves and the world around us. A child who grows up with untrustworthy parents may struggle to trust others well into adulthood. A friend who experiences betrayal may become guarded, hesitant to open up to anyone new. But the most significant cost of broken trust is the loss of connection. Trust is what allows us to let our guard down, to be vulnerable, to share our true selves. Without it, relationships become transactional, more about what we can get from each other than about mutual understanding and support. And without connection, life feels lonelier, even when surrounded by people. Can trust be rebuilt? The good news is that trust, while fragile, is not irreparable. Rebuilding trust requires effort, consistency, and above all, honesty. It's not enough to apologize. Actions must follow words. The person whose trust was broken needs to see, over time, that you are committed to being truthful and reliable. But rebuilding trust is not just about repairing the relationship. It's also about healing the emotional wounds caused by betrayal. This healing takes time and patience. For the person who was hurt, it involves finding the strength to forgive, not necessarily to forget, but to let go of the pain and resentment that can keep them stuck in the past. For the person seeking forgiveness, it requires humility. It means acknowledging the harm done without defensiveness, listening without interruption, and accepting that rebuilding trust is a privilege, not a right. Trust in the digital age. In today's hyper-connected world, trust faces new challenges. Social media and instant communication make it easier than ever to project an image that isn't entirely truthful. We can curate our lives to show only the highlights, creating a gap between who we are and who we appear to be. This gap can erode trust, even unintentionally. Additionally, the sheer volume of information we consume every day has made skepticism a default setting for many of us. We question the authenticity of what we see, hear, and read, and while a healthy dose of skepticism is necessary, it can also make it harder to form genuine connections. If we approach every interaction with suspicion, we miss out on opportunities to build trust and deepen relationships. Choosing trust. Trust is a choice to believe in someone, even when it feels risky. And being trustworthy is also a choice to prioritize honesty, even when it's inconvenient or uncomfortable. Imagine a world where we all chose trust. A world where we didn't need to second-guess each other's words. Where misunderstandings were met with clarity and openness. And where our relationships were built on a foundation of mutual respect and authenticity. That world isn't a fantasy, it's within reach. It starts with each of us choosing, moment by moment, to live with integrity. So let me ask you this: who trusts you, and what are you doing to honor that trust? Trust is one of the most precious gifts we can give and receive. When someone trusts you, they're placing a part of their heart in your hands. It's a responsibility, but also an opportunity. To show up, to be real, and to deepen the connection you share. Yes, trust is fragile, but its fragility is what makes it so valuable. When nurtured, it grows into something unshakable, a bond that can withstand life's challenges and bring us closer to the people we care about most. Take care of the trust you've been given, and remember, it always starts with honesty. The trap of deception. Deception is a paradox. On the surface, it seems like a tool, a way to simplify our lives, avoid conflict, or achieve our goals. But beneath the veneer of convenience lies a trap, one that entangles us in a web of lies, erodes trust, and distances us from our authentic selves. The trap of deception is seductive, but its cost is far greater than we often realize. Why we choose deception? Deception doesn't always start with malicious intent. More often than not, it begins with a justification, a belief that bending the truth is necessary or even beneficial. We tell ourselves it's harmless, a little white lie to smooth over a difficult conversation, a slight exaggeration to impress others, a withheld truth to avoid hurting someone's feelings. In the moment, these choices seem logical. After all, who doesn't want to avoid conflict, look good, or protect someone they care about? But deception, no matter how small, sets off a chain reaction. One lie often requires another to sustain it, and before we know it, we're caught in a cycle of dishonesty. The illusion of control. The first trap of deception is the illusion of control. When we deceive, we believe we are shaping the narrative, steering events in our favor, and in the short term it might work. A well-timed lie can diffuse tension, win admiration, or secure an opportunity. But control through deception is fleeting. Lies are inherently unstable. They require constant maintenance, constant vigilance, to ensure the truth doesn't come to light. The effort to keep a lie intact often consumes more energy than it would have taken to address the truth in the first place. Worse, the more lies we tell, the more we lose control. Lies have a way of growing beyond our intentions, taking on lives of their own. What begins as a small deception can snowball into a tangled mess, leaving us trapped in the very situation we tried to avoid. Deception and self-deception. One of the most insidious aspects of deception is its tendency to turn inward. The lies we tell others often become lies we tell ourselves. We convince ourselves that our actions are justified, that the ends outweigh the means, or that the truth isn't really that important. This self-deception numbs our conscience, allowing us to act against our values without fully realizing the damage we're doing. But self-deception is a slippery slope. Over time, it distorts our perception of reality. We begin to lose sight of who we are, what we stand for, and what truly matters. And as we drift further from our authentic selves, we feel an increasing sense of disconnection from others, from our values, and from the peace that comes with living truthfully. The ripple effect of lies. Deception doesn't just affect the deceiver. Its impact ripples outward, touching everyone involved. A single lie can fracture trust, create misunderstandings, and sow seeds of doubt that linger long after the truth is revealed. Imagine a friend discovers that you lied to them, even about something seemingly minor. The lie might not end the friendship, but it plants a seed of suspicion. The next time you make a promise or share a story, they may wonder, are they telling the truth this time? Over time, this doubt can erode the foundation of your relationship, leaving both parties feeling guarded and disconnected. In professional settings, the consequences of deception can be even more damaging. A single instance of dishonesty can tarnish your reputation, making colleagues question your reliability and integrity. And in the interconnected world we live in, a damaged reputation can follow you far beyond the immediate fallout. The emotional toll of deception. Deception takes a toll on the deceiver too. Living a lie, or even a series of small lies, creates a constant undercurrent of tension. The fear of being found out, the effort to keep stories straight, and the guilt of acting against your values all weigh heavily on your psyche. Over time, this tension manifests as stress, anxiety, and even a sense of shame. You may find yourself avoiding situations where the truth could come to light, isolating yourself from others, or doubting your ability to be honest. The emotional burden of deception is a heavy one, and it only grows heavier with time. The unseen cost of harmless lies. Not all lies are malicious, and not all have immediate consequences, but even the so-called harmless lies come at a cost. Every time we choose deception over honesty, we reinforce a habit of avoidance. We teach ourselves that the truth is something to be feared rather than embraced. This habit can become deeply ingrained, affecting how we approach challenges, relationships, and even our sense of self. And while a single lie might seem insignificant, the cumulative effect of countless small deceptions can fundamentally alter the way we live and interact with the world. Escaping the trap. The first step to escaping the trap of deception is acknowledging its presence. Take a moment to reflect. Are there areas in your life where you've chosen dishonesty over truth? What were your reasons? And how has that choice affected you and those around you? Acknowledging deception, both to yourself and, where appropriate, to others, is an act of courage. It's also the beginning of freedom. When you commit to honesty, you free yourself from the burden of maintaining lies. You open the door to deeper, more authentic connections. And you begin to rebuild trust, both in your relationships and within yourself. The strength in honesty. Honesty isn't always easy. It requires vulnerability, courage, and a willingness to face discomfort. But it's also deeply empowering. When you choose honesty, you reclaim control, not over others, but over your own life. You no longer have to carry the weight of lies or live in fear of being exposed. Instead, you can stand confidently in your truth, knowing that you are acting in alignment with your values. And here's the beauty of honesty: it's contagious. When you choose to live truthfully, you create a space where others feel safe to do the same. You set an example that encourages authenticity, deepens relationships, and fosters trust. The gift of living authentically. The ultimate reward of honesty is freedom. Freedom from the fear of being found out. Freedom from the stress of maintaining lies. Freedom to be yourself, fully and unapologetically. Deception may seem like an easy way out, but it's a trap. A trap that binds us to fear, guilt, and disconnection. Honesty, on the other hand, is a path to liberation. It's not always the easiest path, but it's the one that leads to a life of meaning, connection, and peace. So, I invite you to take a step toward freedom. Let go of the lies, no matter how small they may seem. Embrace the courage to live authentically, and watch as the world responds, not with rejection, but with the trust and connection we all long for. Honesty is a gift, not just to others, but to yourself. It's a gift that keeps giving, creating a ripple effect of authenticity, trust, and love. Choose it, live it, and see how it transforms your life. Why truth feels risky. Truth has a peculiar quality. It's both liberating and terrifying. On one hand, it sets us free, unburdens our minds, and brings clarity to our lives. On the other, it leaves us vulnerable, exposed, and unsure of how the world will respond. This duality is why truth often feels risky, and why so many of us hesitate before choosing honesty. But what is it about truth that makes it feel like a gamble? Why does living authentically seem so daunting? To understand, we need to look deeper into our fears, our social conditioning, and the delicate balance between vulnerability and trust. The fear of rejection. At its core, much of our reluctance to embrace truth stems from the fear of rejection. Humans are social creatures. We long for connection, acceptance, and belonging. These desires are deeply ingrained in us, and anything that threatens them feels inherently dangerous. When we speak our truth, especially when that truth reveals something personal, uncomfortable, or unflattering, we risk being judged. What if our honesty makes others uncomfortable? What if they pull away or see us differently? These questions linger in our minds, often pushing us towards safer, less authentic paths. Imagine telling a friend something difficult, perhaps that their actions hurt you. It's an honest statement, but it also feels risky. What if they become defensive? What if the relationship changes? This fear of altering the dynamics of our relationships can make honesty feel like a leap into the unknown. The vulnerability of truth. Truth is inherently vulnerable. To be truthful means to lay yourself bare, to remove the protective layers of pretense and facade. And vulnerability, while essential for deep connection, is not always comfortable. It requires courage to say, "This is who I am," without knowing how that truth will be received. Consider moments when you've had to admit a mistake, express a deeply held belief, or reveal a part of yourself you've kept hidden. Each of these acts involves stepping into vulnerability. And vulnerability, though beautiful, feels risky because it exposes us to potential harm, criticism, ridicule, or even betrayal. Social conditioning and the politeness trap. From a young age, many of us are taught that politeness and harmony are more important than honesty. We're encouraged to avoid conflict, to say what others want to hear, and to prioritize social niceties over uncomfortable truths. While these lessons may help us navigate certain situations, they also instill a subtle fear of honesty. For example, consider how often we give polite but insincere answers to simple questions like, "How are you?" or "What do you think of this idea?" These small, socially conditioned lies may seem harmless, but they reinforce the belief that truth is dangerous, or at least inconvenient. This conditioning runs deeper in situations involving authority, power dynamics, or cultural expectations. Speaking truth to a boss, a family elder, or a larger group can feel like an act of defiance, one that risks disrupting established hierarchies or norms. The cost of comfort. Honesty challenges comfort, both our own and others. When we tell the truth, we disrupt the status quo. We introduce complexity into situations that might otherwise seem simple. And while truth has the power to heal and connect, its initial impact can feel unsettling. Think of a family gathering where everyone avoids discussing an underlying tension. Perhaps a disagreement or a misunderstanding has been swept under the rug for years. Bringing up the issue would be honest, but it would also be uncomfortable. It might spark arguments or bring emotions to the surface that everyone has worked hard to suppress. In such cases, truth feels risky because it forces us to confront what we've been avoiding. And let's face it, avoidance often feels easier, at least in the short term. The influence of power dynamics. Power dynamics amplify the perceived risk of truth. When one person holds more authority, influence, or control in a relationship, honesty can feel like a challenge to that balance. The fear of consequences, losing a job, damaging a relationship, or facing retaliation, can make truthfulness seem like an impossible choice. For instance, imagine an employee who discovers unethical behavior in their workplace. Speaking up would be the right thing to do, But the risks are daunting. What if their concerns are dismissed? What if they face backlash or professional consequences? This fear often silences people, allowing deception and wrongdoing to persist. The complexity of self-honesty. Being truthful with others is challenging, but being truthful with ourselves can feel even riskier. Self-honesty requires us to confront parts of ourselves we might prefer to ignore: our fears, our failures, our biases, and our contradictions. It demands that we strip away the stories we tell ourselves to feel comfortable or justified. For example, admitting that we've been holding on to a toxic relationship or pursuing a career that doesn't align with our values can be painful. These realizations force us to reckon with the gap between who we are and who we want to be. And bridging that gap often requires change, a prospect that feels risky in its own right. The consequences of avoiding truth. While the risks of truth are real, the consequences of avoiding it are often greater. Deception, avoidance, and dishonesty create barriers between ourselves and others, and barriers within our own hearts. Over time, these barriers isolate us, erode trust, and diminish our sense of self. Living in avoidance may feel safer in the moment, but it comes at a cost. Relationships become shallow, inner peace becomes elusive, and the longer we avoid the truth, the harder it becomes to face. Embracing the risk of truth. Despite its challenges, truth is worth the risk. Honesty is the foundation of trust, the catalyst for growth, and the gateway to authentic connection. When we choose truth, we choose a life aligned with our values, free from the weight of pretense. To embrace the risk of truth, we must start small. Practice honesty in low-stakes situations, sharing your true feelings about a movie, admitting when you don't know something, or gently addressing minor conflicts. These small acts build the muscle of courage, preparing you for the bigger moments when truth feels scarier. Remember, honesty doesn't mean being harsh or thoughtless. Truth can be delivered with compassion, sensitivity, and care. In fact, when truth is coupled with kindness, its impact is far more powerful. The freedom of truth. Living truthfully doesn't mean eliminating risk. It means embracing it. It means understanding that vulnerability is the price of connection, that discomfort is the price of growth, and that honesty, though risky, is the path to freedom. Yes, truth feels risky, but ask yourself this: what is the cost of living a life that isn't true to who you are? What do you lose when you prioritize safety over authenticity? Choosing truth is an act of courage. It's a declaration of your commitment to living fully, loving deeply, and connecting meaningfully. And in a world that often prioritizes appearances over substance, that courage is transformative. Not just for you, but for everyone you touch. Truth may feel risky, but it's the only risk worth taking. The inner battle. Honesty, they say, begins within. But what does that truly mean? To be honest with ourselves is no simple task. It requires peeling back layers of illusion, confronting uncomfortable truths, and dismantling the stories we tell ourselves to maintain comfort. This internal struggle, the inner battle between truth and denial, is one of the most challenging aspects of living authentically. It's a battle fought not with others, but within the deepest corners of our own minds. Why is self-honesty so difficult? And how do we navigate this inner battlefield? To understand, we must first examine the forces at play. The stories we tell ourselves. Every one of us carries a narrative, a story about who we are, what we value, and how we navigate the world. These stories help us make sense of our experiences, shape our identity, and guide our decisions. But not all stories are truthful. Some of these narratives are born out of fear or insecurity. Perhaps we tell ourselves that we're content in a job that drains us because admitting otherwise would mean facing uncertainty. Or we convince ourselves that a relationship is fine even when it's causing us pain, because the alternative, loneliness, feels unbearable. These stories often serve as protective mechanisms, shielding us from discomfort. But while they may provide temporary relief, they also keep us stuck. They prevent us from addressing the root causes of our unhappiness and from pursuing the changes that could lead to a more fulfilling life. The role of ego. At the heart of the inner battle lies the ego, our sense of self. The ego is deeply invested in maintaining its image, its sense of control, and its narrative of who we are. When confronted with truths that challenge these elements, the ego often resists. For example, admitting a mistake might feel like an attack on our self-worth. Acknowledging jealousy might clash with the image we've cultivated of being above petty emotions. Accepting that we've hurt someone might force us to question our morality. In these moments, the ego acts as a defense mechanism, pushing back against the truths that threaten its carefully constructed identity. But the ego's resistance comes at a cost. By refusing to face uncomfortable truths, we limit our growth. We become trapped in cycles of denial, unable to move forward or to truly understand ourselves. The pain of self-deception. Self-deception might seem easier than confronting the truth, but it comes with its own kind of pain. When we ignore or suppress our true feelings, they don't simply disappear. Instead, they linger beneath the surface, manifesting as stress, anxiety, or even physical discomfort. Consider the weight of living a life that doesn't align with your values. Perhaps you've convinced yourself that material success is enough to make you happy, even though your heart craves deeper meaning. Or maybe you've stayed silent about a personal passion because you fear it won't be accepted. These choices, while seemingly minor, create a sense of disconnection, a feeling that something is missing, even if you can't quite name it. This disconnection is the cost of self-deception. It's the gap between who we are and who we pretend to be. And the longer we ignore it, the wider it grows. The courage to look within. The inner battle requires courage, not the kind of courage that's loud or flashy, but a quiet, steadfast bravery. It's the courage to sit with discomfort, to ask hard questions, and to face answers that may not be what we want to hear. This process often begins with simple acts of self-awareness. Take a moment to pause and reflect. What emotions are you feeling right now? Are there any thoughts or beliefs you've been avoiding? What would it look like to confront them honestly? These questions may feel unsettling, but they are the gateway to self-discovery. By shining a light on the parts of ourselves we've kept hidden, we begin to understand what drives us, what holds us back, and what we truly need. Resistance and reluctance. Of course, self-awareness isn't always straightforward. The inner battle is often marked by resistance. Even when we recognize a truth, we may find ourselves reluctant to accept it. This reluctance is normal. It's a sign that we're challenging deeply ingrained habits and beliefs. For example, consider someone who has spent years pursuing a career that no longer brings them joy. Admitting this truth might mean acknowledging wasted time, disappointing others, or stepping into the unknown. The weight of these implications can make it tempting to retreat into denial, convincing themselves that everything is fine. This resistance is part of the process. It's the ego's way of clinging to the familiar, even when the familiar no longer serves us. But with patience and persistence, we can move through it, gradually building the strength to face our truths. The power of compassion. One of the most effective tools in the inner battle is compassion, not just for others, but for ourselves. When we approach self-honesty with kindness, we create a space where growth feels possible. Instead of judging ourselves for our mistakes or weaknesses, we can view them as opportunities for learning and transformation. Compassion allows us to hold space for our imperfections without being consumed by them. It reminds us that self-honesty isn't about perfection, it's about progress. And it gives us the resilience to keep moving forward even when the journey feels difficult. The rewards of self-honesty. The rewards of self-honesty are profound. When we embrace our truths, we free ourselves from the weight of pretense. We begin to live in alignment with our values, our passions, and our purpose. And in doing so, we cultivate a sense of inner peace that no external achievement can replicate. Self-honesty also deepens our relationships. When we understand ourselves, we can show up more authentically for others. We can communicate more openly, love more fully, and connect more meaningfully. This authenticity creates a ripple effect, inspiring those around us to do the same. Lifelong practice. The inner battle is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice. There will always be new truths to uncover, new challenges to face, and new opportunities for growth. But with each step we take, we strengthen our capacity for honesty, compassion, and resilience. As you navigate your own inner battle, remember this: facing your truths may feel risky, but it is also the path to freedom. It is through self-honesty that we discover who we truly are, what we truly want, and how we can live a life of meaning and fulfillment. So take a deep breath, look within, and trust that the courage to face your truths will lead you to a place of peace, clarity, and authenticity. A Buddhist perspective on truth. In Buddhism, truth is not just a moral principle, it is the essence of liberation. Known as Sakka in Pali or Satya in Sanskrit, truth in the Buddhist tradition is more than simply speaking honestly. It is a way of seeing and living in alignment with the reality of life. Truth serves as a compass, guiding us toward clarity, peace, and enlightenment. Through a Buddhist lens, truthfulness is both a practice and a state of being. It is a commitment to living authentically, a path to inner freedom, and a bridge to harmony with others. But to understand truth in this context, we must explore its layers: the truth of speech, the truth of perception, and the ultimate truth of existence. The truth of speech, right speech. In Buddhism, the concept of right speech is one of the steps on the Noble Eightfold Path, the Buddha's guide to ending suffering and achieving enlightenment. Right speech encourages us to use words that are truthful, kind, and beneficial. It asks us to refrain from lying, gossiping, speaking harshly, or engaging in idle chatter. But right speech is not just about avoiding harm, it's about cultivating harmony. When we speak truthfully, we create trust and understanding. When our words are kind and thoughtful, we foster compassion and connection. And when our speech is purposeful, we contribute to the well-being of others and ourselves. However, practicing right speech is not always easy. Truth can sometimes be uncomfortable or unwelcome. Buddhism teaches that we must balance honesty with mindfulness. Before speaking, we are encouraged to ask ourselves, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? These questions remind us that truthfulness, when paired with wisdom and compassion, becomes a powerful tool for healing and growth. The truth of perception, seeing clearly. Beyond our words, Buddhism emphasizes the importance of perceiving truth in the world around us. The human mind, shaped by desires, fears, and biases, often distorts reality. We see what we want to see, or what we fear to see, rather than what truly is. This distortion is known as delusion, one of the three poisons that Buddhism identifies as the root causes of suffering. The practice of mindfulness is a way to pierce through these illusions. By observing our thoughts, emotions, and experiences without judgment, we begin to see them as they truly are. For example, instead of labeling an emotion as good or bad, We simply acknowledge its presence. This clarity allows us to respond to life with wisdom rather than reactivity. Buddhism also teaches that truth is not fixed or absolute. Our perceptions are shaped by context, conditioning, and perspective. This understanding encourages humility and openness. Instead of clinging to our version of the truth, we learn to approach life with curiosity and a willingness to see things from multiple angles. The ultimate truth, impermanence, and interconnection. At the heart of Buddhist philosophy lies the understanding of ultimate truth. The Buddha taught that all things are marked by three fundamental characteristics: impermanence, panadik, suffering, dukkha, and non-self, anatta. These truths challenge our habitual ways of seeing the world, but they also offer profound insights into the nature of existence. 1. Impermanence. Everything in life is transient. Relationships, possessions, emotions, and even our physical bodies are in a constant state of change. While this truth can feel unsettling, Buddhism encourages us to embrace it. By accepting impermanence, we free ourselves from the attachment that causes suffering. We learn to appreciate the present moment without clinging to it, knowing that change is inevitable. 2. Suffering. Life involves suffering, not as a punishment, but as an intrinsic part of existence. This suffering arises from our desires and aversions, from our attempts to hold on to what is fleeting. By acknowledging this truth, we begin the journey toward liberation. Instead of resisting suffering, we learn to face it with courage and compassion, using it as a catalyst for growth. 3. Non-self. The idea of a fixed, unchanging self is an illusion. Buddhism teaches that what we think of as self is a collection of ever-changing elements, thoughts, feelings, perceptions, and experiences. This understanding dissolves the boundaries between ourselves and others, fostering a sense of interconnection and unity. Truth as a path to liberation. For Buddhists, living in alignment with truth is not just about moral integrity. It is a path to freedom. When we embrace truth, we let go of the illusions and attachments that bind us. We begin to see life as it truly is, not as we wish it to be. This clarity brings peace because it aligns us with the natural flow of existence. Consider the analogy of a river. If we fight against the current, we exhaust ourselves. But if we flow with it, we find ease and harmony. Truth is the current of life, and living truthfully means surrendering to its flow. Truth in relationships, the art of authenticity. Truthfulness in relationships is a cornerstone of Buddhist practice. When we are truthful with others, we build trust, deepen connection, and create space for genuine understanding. But truthfulness does not mean bluntness or insensitivity. Buddhism teaches that authenticity must be tempered with compassion. For example, if a friend asks for feedback on something they've done, honesty is essential. But how we deliver that honesty matters. Instead of criticizing harshly, we can offer our perspective with kindness and encouragement. This approach not only preserves the relationship, but also enhances it. Authenticity also means being truthful about our feelings and intentions. When we express our needs honestly, we invite others to do the same. This mutual openness creates relationships rooted in respect and empathy, where both parties feel seen and valued. The practice of truthfulness, a daily commitment. Living truthfully is not an abstract ideal, it is a daily practice. In every moment we are presented with choices about how we speak, think, and act. Each of these choices is an opportunity to align ourselves with truth. This practice requires mindfulness. It means pausing before we speak to ensure our words reflect honesty and kindness. It means observing our thoughts to identify when we are clinging to illusions or resisting reality. And it means approaching life with a sense of curiosity and humility, knowing that truth is a journey, not a destination. The paradox of truth. Finally, Buddhism acknowledges the paradoxical nature of truth. On one level, truth is simple. What is, is. But on another level, truth is complex and multifaceted. What feels true in one moment may evolve in the next. This paradox invites us to hold truth lightly, to approach it with both conviction and flexibility. This perspective is liberating. It reminds us that truth is not about rigidity or dogma. It is about alignment with the ever-changing reality of life. It is about living authentically with awareness and compassion. In the Buddhist perspective, truth is a path not just to a moral life, but to a meaningful one. It is a practice of being present, being real, and being connected to the world around us. It is a commitment to seeing clearly, speaking kindly, and living authentically. So, take a moment to reflect. What truths have you been avoiding? How can you bring more honesty into your thoughts, words, and actions? And what might your life look like if you embraced truth, not as a burden, but as a source of liberation? The path of truth is not always easy, but it is always worth walking. It is a path that leads to peace, to freedom, and to the profound joy of living in harmony with yourself and the world. Honesty in relationships. Honesty is the foundation of all meaningful relationships. It builds trust, fosters understanding, and creates a space where love, respect, and connection can thrive. Yet, honesty in relationships is not always easy. It requires vulnerability and courage and the willingness to engage in uncomfortable conversations. But when practiced with care and compassion, honesty becomes a powerful tool for deepening bonds and nurturing authentic connections. The role of honesty in building trust. Trust is the lifeblood of any relationship, whether it's with a partner, a friend, a family member, or a colleague. And honesty is the cornerstone of trust. Without honesty, trust crumbles, leaving relationships fragile and uncertain. Imagine a relationship where honesty is absent. Lies, no matter how small, create cracks in the foundation. Over time, those cracks widen, and even the most trivial mistruths can undermine the trust that took years to build. Conversely, honesty reinforces the structure, ensuring that both parties feel safe, respected, and valued. But trust isn't just about avoiding lies, it's about consistency. It's about showing up with integrity and following through on promises. When we are honest in our words and actions, we demonstrate reliability, and that reliability strengthens trust over time. The fear of being honest. If honesty is so vital, why do we sometimes shy away from it? Fear often holds us back. We fear conflict. We fear rejection. We fear hurting someone we care about. These fears, while natural, can lead us to choose avoidance over truth. Consider a common scenario. A partner asks how you feel about something they've done. You hesitate. Being honest might mean expressing disappointment or frustration, and that feels risky. What if your honesty upsets them? What if it leads to an argument? To avoid discomfort, you say, "It's fine," even when it's not. This avoidance may seem like the safer choice in the moment, but it often creates a silent distance between people. Over time, that distance grows, eroding the connection you share. The very conflict you sought to avoid becomes inevitable, often magnified by the weight of unspoken truths. Balancing honesty with kindness. Honesty is not about bluntness or saying whatever comes to mind without regard for others' feelings. True honesty is thoughtful and compassionate. It seeks to communicate truth in a way that is constructive, not destructive. For example, if a friend asks for feedback on a project they're passionate about, honesty doesn't mean harsh criticism. Instead, it means offering your perspective with care. You might say, "I love the direction you're going, and I think it could be even stronger if you considered their potential for growth." This approach respects their efforts while providing meaningful input. Balancing honesty with kindness requires mindfulness. Before speaking, take a moment to consider, what is the purpose of my honesty? Am I speaking to help, to connect, or simply to express myself? How can I share my truth in a way that nurtures the relationship? These reflections can guide you toward honesty that builds bridges rather than walls. Vulnerability, the gateway to connection. Honesty and vulnerability are deeply intertwined. To be honest, especially about our feelings, needs, and fears, is to open ourselves up to others. This openness can feel risky, but it is also what allows for true connection. When we share our vulnerabilities, we invite others to do the same. This mutual openness fosters empathy and understanding, deepening the bond between people. For example, telling a loved one, "I've been feeling insecure lately," may feel uncomfortable, but it creates an opportunity for them to offer support and reassurance. In that moment, the relationship grows stronger. However, vulnerability must be met with trust and respect. Not everyone is ready or capable of handling our truths. It's important to choose moments and people wisely, ensuring that our honesty is met with care. The cost of dishonesty in relationships. Dishonesty, even when well-intentioned, carries a cost. Lies, whether they are meant to protect, avoid conflict, or gain advantage, undermine the very fabric of a relationship. They create a sense of unease, a feeling that something is not quite right. This unease can lead to suspicion, resentment, and eventually disconnection. For example, imagine a friend discovers you've been keeping a significant secret from them. Even if your intention was to spare their feelings, the revelation of the secret may leave them questioning your trustworthiness. They may wonder, "What else haven't they told me?" This doubt, once planted, can be difficult to uproot. Dishonesty also takes a toll on the person who lies. The effort to maintain a falsehood, to remember the details of a deception, and to navigate the guilt of acting against one's values can be emotionally exhausting. Over time, this strain can affect your sense of self, making it harder to engage authentically with others. Honesty in conflict, facing disagreements with grace. Conflict is a natural part of relationships. When handled with honesty and care, it can even be an opportunity for growth. The key is to approach disagreements with a commitment to truth and a willingness to listen. When conflicts arise, it's tempting to avoid the truth to keep the peace, but avoidance often leads to unresolved tensions that resurface later. Instead, approach conflict as a chance to express your feelings honestly while remaining open to the other person's perspective. For example, instead of saying, "You never listen to me," which can feel accusatory, try, "I feel unheard when I share my thoughts, and I'd like us to work on improving our communication." This approach is both honest and collaborative, inviting the other person to join you in finding a solution. The transformative power of honesty. When honesty becomes a consistent practice in relationships, it transforms them. Honest relationships are grounded in trust, respect, and authenticity. They allow both people to feel seen and valued for who they truly are, without pretense or fear of judgment. Imagine a partnership where both people feel free to express their needs, knowing they will be met with understanding. Imagine a friendship where you can share your joys and struggles without fear of being misunderstood. These are the kinds of connections that honesty makes possible. Cultivating honesty in your relationships. Building honesty in relationships is a gradual process. It requires intention, effort, and patience. Here are some practices to help you cultivate honesty. 1. Start small. Begin with minor truths to build confidence. Share a feeling or observation that feels manageable, and notice how the other person responds. 2. Listen actively. Honesty isn't just about speaking your truth, it's also about creating space for others to share theirs. Practice active listening, showing that you value their perspective. 3. Acknowledge fear. Recognize the fears that hold you back from being honest. Are you afraid of rejection, conflict, or vulnerability? Naming these fears can help you move past them. 4. Practice self-reflection. Honesty with others starts with honesty with yourself. Take time to reflect on your feelings, needs, and motivations before sharing them. 5. Communicate with care. Frame your honesty in a way that is kind and constructive. Avoid blame and focus on expressing your feelings and needs. The gift of honesty. Honesty is one of the greatest gifts we can offer in relationships. It fosters trust, nurtures connection, and creates a space where both people can grow together. While it may feel risky at times, the rewards are worth it. By embracing honesty, we build relationships that are not only resilient, but deeply fulfilling. So, the next time you find yourself hesitating to speak your truth, remember this. Honesty, delivered with compassion, is a gift that strengthens the bond you share with others. It is a choice that transforms relationships and brings you closer to the love, understanding, and connection you seek. The courage to be honest. Honesty requires courage. It may seem straightforward, just tell the truth. Yet in practice, honesty often feels daunting. It asks us to be vulnerable, to face our fears, and to challenge the comfortable narratives we construct to protect ourselves. To live honestly is to step into the unknown, embracing the possibility of discomfort for the sake of authenticity. Why does honesty demand courage, and how can we cultivate it? To answer these questions, we must explore the fears that hold us back, the strength required to overcome them, and the profound rewards of living a truthful life. The fears that hold us back. At the heart of honesty lies vulnerability, and with vulnerability comes fear. These fears can manifest in various ways, making us hesitate before speaking or acting truthfully. 1. Fear of rejection. Honesty can make us feel exposed. Sharing a deeply held belief, admitting a mistake, or revealing our true feelings invites judgment. What if others don't accept us as we are? What if they pull away? This fear of rejection often tempts us to hide behind half-truths or silence. 2. Fear of conflict. Truth has the power to disrupt the status quo. Expressing an honest opinion or addressing a sensitive issue may lead to tension or disagreement. For many, the fear of conflict outweighs the desire to be truthful, leading to avoidance or appeasement. 3. Fear of failure. Honesty with ourselves is equally challenging. It requires admitting our limitations, confronting mistakes, and facing truths we'd rather ignore. The fear of acknowledging failure can keep us trapped in denial, resisting the very honesty that could set us free. 4. Fear of consequences. In certain situations, being honest may seem risky. Speaking up about unethical behavior at work, admitting a difficult truth to a partner, or confessing a personal struggle can have tangible repercussions. The fear of these consequences often leads us to choose silence over truth. Why courage matters. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the ability to move forward despite it. When we choose honesty, we take a step toward freedom and authenticity. We align ourselves with our values and create the foundation for deeper, more meaningful connections. 1. Courage in vulnerability. Vulnerability is often seen as weakness, but in truth, it's a source of strength. It takes immense courage to say, "This is who I am," or "This is how I feel." Yet it is through vulnerability that we forge genuine relationships. When we allow others to see our true selves, we invite them to do the same. 2. Courage in conflict. Avoiding conflict might feel easier, but it often leads to unresolved tension and resentment. Facing conflict with honesty and grace requires courage, but it opens the door to understanding and resolution. It's not about being confrontational, it's about valuing the relationship enough to address its challenges. 3. Courage in growth. Honesty with ourselves is a prerequisite for personal growth. It takes courage to look in the mirror and confront our flaws, fears, and failures. But this self-awareness is what enables us to learn, adapt, and evolve. Without it, we remain stagnant, trapped in the stories we tell ourselves. Cultivating the courage to be honest. Like any virtue, courage can be developed with practice. By starting small and building gradually, we can strengthen our capacity for honesty in all areas of life. 1. Start with yourself. Begin by being honest with yourself. Reflect on your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Are there areas where you've been avoiding the truth? Journaling or meditating can help you uncover and confront these hidden aspects of yourself. 2. Practice in safe spaces. Share your truths with people you trust. These safe spaces provide a supportive environment for practicing honesty without fear of harsh judgment. The more you experience the positive outcomes of being truthful, the more confident you'll become in expressing yourself. 3. Focus on the present. Honesty can feel overwhelming when we think about its long-term implications. Instead, focus on the present moment. Ask yourself, what is the most truthful and compassionate action I can take right now? By staying grounded in the present, you can navigate honesty one step at a time. 4. Embrace discomfort. Honesty often involves discomfort, but discomfort is not inherently bad. It's a sign of growth and change. When you feel uneasy about being honest, remind yourself that this discomfort is temporary and that the rewards of truthfulness far outweigh it. 5. Celebrate small wins. Each act of honesty, no matter how small, is a victory. Celebrate these moments as evidence of your growing courage. Whether it's admitting a mistake, expressing an opinion, or sharing a feeling, each truthful action strengthens your ability to live authentically. The rewards of honesty. While honesty requires courage, the rewards are profound. By embracing truth, we free ourselves from the weight of pretense and create a life of greater clarity, connection, and peace. 1. Inner peace. Living honestly eliminates the inner conflict that comes from pretending to be someone we're not. When our actions align with our values, we experience a sense of integrity and wholeness. 2. Deeper relationships. Honesty fosters trust and intimacy in relationships. When we show up authentically, we create a space where others feel safe to do the same. This mutual openness deepens our connections and strengthens our bonds. 3. Freedom from fear. The more we practice honesty, the less we fear it. Over time, we learn that truth is not something to dread, but something to embrace. This freedom from fear allows us to live more fully and courageously. 4. Personal growth. Honesty is a catalyst for growth. By confronting our limitations and acknowledging our mistakes, we create opportunities for learning and improvement. Each act of self-honesty propels us closer to the person we aspire to be. Choosing courage, choosing truth. Honesty is not always the easy path, but it is the path of integrity, authenticity, and freedom. Each time we choose truth over avoidance, we strengthen our courage and reaffirm our commitment to living in alignment with our values. So ask yourself, where in my life am I holding back from honesty? What truths am I afraid to face? Then, take a small step toward confronting those fears. Remember, courage is not about being fearless. It's about choosing to act despite the fear. The journey toward honesty is not linear, and it's not always comfortable, but it is always worth it. By cultivating the courage to be honest, you open the door to a life of greater meaning, connection, and joy. Choose courage, choose truth, and watch as your world transforms. The rewards of truth. Truth in its purest form is a source of liberation. It frees us from the burdens of pretense, strengthens our relationships, and aligns us with the natural flow of life. While embracing truth may sometimes feel challenging, the rewards of living authentically far outweigh the discomforts along the way. Truth is not just a virtue, it is a gateway to a richer, more meaningful life. Let us explore the profound rewards that truthfulness brings to ourselves, our relationships, and the world around us. Inner peace and self-alignment. One of the most immediate rewards of truth is the peace it brings. When we are truthful with ourselves and others, we free ourselves from the mental gymnastics required to sustain lies or half-truths. We no longer have to remember what we said to whom, nor do we need to carry the guilt of deception. Honesty aligns us with our values, creating a sense of integrity and wholeness. This alignment eliminates the inner conflict that arises when our actions contradict our beliefs. When we live truthfully, we experience a profound sense of ease. Our thoughts, words, and actions are in harmony. Imagine waking up each day knowing that you have nothing to hide, nothing to fear. That freedom from internal struggle is a gift that truthfulness gives us, allowing us to focus our energy on living fully and authentically. Deeper and more meaningful relationships. Truth is the foundation of trust, and trust is the foundation of any meaningful relationship. When we are honest with others, we create a space where mutual understanding and respect can flourish. In contrast, dishonesty breeds doubt, eroding the bonds that connect us. Honesty fosters intimacy. Sharing our true thoughts and feelings, even when it feels vulnerable, invites others to do the same. This mutual openness deepens connections and strengthens relationships, whether with a partner, a friend, or a family member. Consider a relationship where both parties feel free to express their fears, desires, and mistakes without fear of judgment. Such a relationship is not only resilient, but also deeply fulfilling. By choosing honesty, we cultivate the kind of relationships that nourish our souls and enrich our lives. Trust and reliability. Truthful people are trusted people. When we live honestly, others know they can rely on us. Our words carry weight because they are backed by integrity. This trust is invaluable. It opens doors, fosters collaboration, and strengthens our credibility in both personal and professional settings. Imagine working with someone who always speaks honestly, even when the truth is inconvenient. Their reliability becomes an anchor, making them a valued colleague or friend. In contrast, someone who is dishonest may achieve short-term gains, but ultimately loses the trust of those around them. By being truthful, we build a reputation that stands the test of time. Clarity and freedom from illusion. Truth provides clarity. It cuts through the fog of deception, allowing us to see situations, people, and ourselves as they truly are. This clarity is empowering. It enables us to make informed decisions, set realistic expectations, and navigate life with confidence. For example, acknowledging the truth about a toxic relationship or an unfulfilling job can be painful, but it is also the first step toward change. By confronting reality, we gain the freedom to take action and create a life that aligns with our values and aspirations. Living truthfully also frees us from the illusion of control. Lies often stem from a desire to manipulate outcomes, but this effort is both exhausting and ultimately futile. Truth teaches us to surrender to the natural flow of life, trusting that authenticity will guide us to where we need to be. Emotional resilience and growth. Facing the truth, especially when it is uncomfortable, builds emotional resilience. Each act of honesty strengthens our ability to confront challenges with courage and grace. Over time, this resilience becomes a powerful tool for navigating life's complexities. Truth also fosters personal growth. By acknowledging our flaws, mistakes, and areas for improvement, we create opportunities for learning and transformation. For instance, admitting that we've acted out of jealousy or fear allows us to understand and address those emotions, leading to greater self-awareness and emotional maturity. Living truthfully also helps us let go of the need for perfection. When we are honest about our limitations, we embrace our humanity, cultivating self-compassion and acceptance. The power of authenticity. Authenticity is one of the most liberating rewards of truth. When we live authentically, we are free to be ourselves, unapologetically and without pretense. This freedom is not only deeply satisfying, but also magnetic. It attracts people who resonate with our true selves, creating relationships that are genuine and meaningful. In a world that often values appearances over substance, authenticity stands out. By choosing to live truthfully, we inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect that fosters authenticity in our communities and beyond. A life of meaning and purpose. Truth aligns us with our values, and this alignment brings a sense of purpose and meaning to our lives. When we live honestly, we prioritize what truly matters: our relationships, our passions, and our contributions to the world. For example, a person who is honest about their career dissatisfaction may take steps to pursue a path that aligns with their passions. While the transition may be challenging, the result is a life filled with purpose and fulfillment. Truth also connects us to a larger sense of meaning. In many spiritual traditions, truth is seen as a reflection of the divine or the ultimate reality. By living in alignment with truth, we align ourselves with the flow of life, experiencing a sense of connection to something greater than ourselves. The legacy of truth. The rewards of truth extend beyond the individual. When we live honestly, we contribute to a culture of integrity, trust, and compassion. Our actions set an example for others, inspiring them to choose authenticity and fostering a world where truth is valued. This legacy of truth is particularly important in parenting and mentorship. By modeling honesty, we teach the next generation the value of integrity, helping them navigate life with clarity and confidence. Embracing the rewards of truth. The journey toward truth is not always easy, but it is profoundly rewarding. By choosing honesty, we cultivate inner peace, deepen our relationships, and align ourselves with our highest values. We create a life that is not only authentic, but also rich with meaning and connection. So ask yourself, where can I bring more truth into my life? What rewards might await me on the other side of honesty? The path of truth is not without challenges, but it is a path worth walking. With each step, you move closer to a life of greater freedom, fulfillment, and joy. Choose truth, embrace its rewards, and watch as it transforms your life and the lives of those around you. The lesson of truthfulness. As we reach the end of this journey, let's pause and reflect on the deeper lesson of truthfulness. What does it truly mean to live a life grounded in truth? How does this practice shape our inner world, our relationships, and the broader human experience? Truthfulness is more than a virtue. It is a way of being. It is a commitment to authenticity, a willingness to face life as it is, and an expression of love and respect for ourselves and others. The lesson of truthfulness is not just about avoiding lies. It's about embracing a life of integrity, courage, and connection. Truthfulness begins within. The foundation of truthfulness lies in self-honesty. Before we can be truthful with others, we must learn to be honest with ourselves. This means confronting our fears, acknowledging our mistakes, and accepting the parts of ourselves we often try to hide. Self-honesty is not about judgment. It's about understanding. It's about looking inward with compassion and curiosity, recognizing our strengths and limitations, and embracing our humanity. When we practice self-honesty, we free ourselves from self-deception, allowing us to live with greater clarity and purpose. The lesson here is simple. To live truthfully with others, start by living truthfully with yourself. Ask yourself, am I being honest about what I want, what I fear, what I need? These questions may be uncomfortable, but they are the gateway to growth and self-discovery. Truthfulness in relationships. Truthfulness is the bedrock of trust, and trust is the lifeblood of relationships. Whether it's with a partner, a friend, or a colleague, honesty creates a foundation where connection and understanding can thrive. Yet, truthfulness in relationships is not always easy. It requires vulnerability, courage, and a willingness to engage in difficult conversations. The lesson here is that truthfulness, when paired with kindness, strengthens relationships. It invites openness, fosters intimacy, and allows both parties to show up as their authentic selves. By choosing honesty, we create relationships that are not only resilient, but also deeply fulfilling. But truthfulness in relationships is also about balance. It's not about being blunt or harsh. It's about speaking with compassion. Before sharing a difficult truth, ask yourself, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? This approach ensures that your honesty builds bridges rather than walls. The courage to be honest. Living truthfully takes courage. It asks us to face our fears, challenge societal norms, and embrace vulnerability. But courage is not the absence of fear. It's the choice to act despite it. Each time we choose honesty, we strengthen our capacity for courage, making it easier to face the challenges that come our way. The lesson of courage is this: the discomfort of honesty is temporary, but the rewards are lasting. By choosing truth, we free ourselves from the weight of pretense and create a life that aligns with our values. Honesty may feel risky, but it is a risk worth taking, a risk that leads to freedom, connection, and peace. Truthfulness as a path to freedom. In many ways, truthfulness is a path to liberation. It frees us from the burdens of deception, the fear of being found out, and the disconnection that comes from living inauthentically. When we live truthfully, we are no longer bound by the expectations of others or the narratives we've constructed to protect ourselves. The lesson here is profound. Truthfulness liberates us to be who we are. It allows us to live with integrity, to pursue our passions, and to connect with others on a deeper level. It reminds us that we are enough, not because of what we achieve or how we appear, but because of the authenticity we bring to the world. The ripple effect of truthfulness. The impact of truthfulness extends far beyond ourselves. When we choose to live honestly, we inspire others to do the same. Our authenticity creates a ripple effect, fostering a culture of trust, integrity, and compassion. In families, truthfulness sets an example for future generations, teaching children the value of honesty and integrity. In communities, it builds a foundation of trust, enabling collaboration and mutual respect. And in the world, it serves as a beacon of hope, reminding us of the power of authenticity in a world that often prioritizes appearances over substance. The lesson here is that truthfulness is not just a personal practice. It is a contribution to the greater good. By choosing honesty, we become agents of positive change, creating a world where authenticity is celebrated and trust is cherished. Embracing the journey. Living truthfully is not a destination, it is a journey. It is a practice that unfolds moment by moment, choice by choice. There will be times when honesty feels difficult, when the temptation to avoid or distort the truth feels overwhelming. But each act of truthfulness, no matter how small, brings us closer to the life we aspire to live. The lesson here is to embrace the journey with patience and compassion. Perfection is not the goal, progress is. Celebrate each step you take toward greater honesty and forgive yourself when you falter. Remember, the path of truthfulness is not about never making mistakes. It's about learning and growing from them. As we conclude, let me leave you with this thought. Truthfulness is both a choice and a gift. It is a choice to live authentically, to face life as it is, and to connect with others on a deeper level. And it is a gift. To ourselves, to our relationships, and to the world. The lesson of truthfulness is one of courage, compassion, and liberation. It invites us to let go of pretense, to embrace vulnerability, and to live in alignment with our values. It reminds us that while honesty may sometimes feel risky, it is always worth it. So, take a moment to reflect. Where in my life can I bring more truth? What might change if I choose honesty over avoidance, authenticity over pretense? The journey toward truthfulness is not always easy, but it is always rewarding. By choosing to live truthfully, you create a life of greater meaning, connection, and peace. You align yourself with the flow of life, experiencing the freedom and fulfillment that comes from living in harmony with your true self. This is the lesson of truthfulness. It is the path to a life of integrity, joy, and love. Choose truth, live it, and let it transform your world. Thank you for listening. Take a moment today to reflect on where truthfulness can lead you. It might just be closer to the happiness you've been searching for.